Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sheila Hession. I'm the Executive Director of Sales at the MGM National Harbor and Chair of the HSMAI DC Advisory Board. And today we're continuing the mission of HSMAI, which is to fuel sales, inspire marketing, and optimize revenue. And since we're not able to meet in person, we're continuing our educational efforts virtually. This is the 5th webinar in our series, and we're so thankful that you've joined us. And now that the DMV is starting to the reopening process, today's topic is both timely and important. We're so pleased to be joined by Gordon Lemetz, CEO of Digital Escape Advertising, who will present COVID-19, a roadmap to recovery toolkit. But before we get started, let me tell you a little bit about him. Gordon has more than 30 years of hospitality digital experience and educates his clients with innovative new ways of creating digital strategies that are easy to understand and effective. He is driven to inspire others and help them think out of the box to drive website visitors, social media interactions, and engagement. His clients include independent hotels to major brands, supporting all digital channels. And for those listening in, if you have any questions for Gordon, please enter them into the question box and we will be sure they get addressed. Also, please note that you will receive a link to today's recording. And with that, let's get started.
Great, thank you very much. I'm really excited to be doing the program with everybody, and it's a great benefit of the membership to have these ongoing programs where there's really no cost to you to do this except the great education that you're going to receive. So we have a lot of information to go over today. Okay, hold on, sorry, I have a little technical difficulty here. So we have a lot of information to go over today, and I want to kind of talk about what you can do from an action plan standpoint now that some cities or destinations are opening up and some are going to be opening up pretty soon. So we're going to go everything to talk about some industry data, which I think is going to be important for everyone to see, and talk about group business, revenue management from a content standpoint, as well as auditing some of the digital channels that we'd recommend now that we're getting ready to open the properties. So the first thing to do is to come up with a goal setting plan. And I think you need to look at having both short-term and a long-term approach. And with that, you need to look at what going forward, how are we going to do this? What's our game plan going to be? I'm sure that's what a lot of your owners or your management companies are coming to you to say. And you got to be able to be prepared to say, how are we going to do this? So we're going to actually map all that out today. So these are the changes that we're seeing. We're seeing that the guests really are wanting to know, what are you doing from a protocol standpoint to keep me safe? What disinfectants are you using? How are you going to ensure my safety? These small changes that you'll be making at your hotel could make a big impact. And how do you do that? We need to make sure that we do that through email marketing. We need to post it on the website. And then we also need to do that through social media. So I want to go over a couple studies because there's a lot of misnomers out there. And, people saying, well, the hotels don't want to hear from me because no one's traveling. Well, actually, the question was asked, I would like to hear from hotels on the following topics. The most popular topics were understanding what specials and packages that the hotel is going to have, and what is the priority program for a guest to have them protected. Keep those two things in mind as we go throughout this presentation, because as you're building up your content on your website, on your social and email, you want to have that because that is what the guest is looking for. And then another survey question, which was the following would persuade you to vacation. And again, flexibility in your dates without penalty. So going back to revenue management, not talking to them about rates and whatnot, but what is your cancellation policy? Can they cancel at the last minute? Those are the kind of things that will help you convert immediately. And then again, they want discounts on the stay because people have been out of jobs, but they have been stuck in their homes and they want to get out. So keep these things in mind as you're building out your action plan and what you can do. And as we go through this, I want to remind everybody to, if you have any questions, put them into the question box and we'll answer all the questions that you might include. Okay, so let's talk about developing a roadmap with strategies and tactics. There's a lot of information here, and what I want to do is I want to go over the first one, which is month 1, which some destinations are in. And then you have a program with the 90-day action plan where you want to go to month 2 and then month 3. So we're all in phase 1 right now, not quite everybody, depending on your destination. But you want to focus on the upper tier targeting. You want to target audiences based on your destination. So that might be in Orlando, for example, with the opening of the theme parks. We want to focus on that, and we want to focus on localized. So people from Florida, people from Georgia. Right now, I don't know if I want to go after the tri-state area in terms of marketing to that business, because according to the Florida law currently, they have to have a 2-week period in which they have to isolate themselves. So you need to think this out completely. Then you want to focus on messaging around the hotel's availability and how you're opening, and messaging to build the guest confidence. And that's what I talked about, talking about your different protocols. And then you want to have your research that you're going to look at, and how are you going to build out that research? What are the key words that people are using? And are those keywords words that are going to be increasing that, ability for them to look at the hotel and book based on the funnel? And then you want to look at, again, month 2 and month 3. So that's the basic overall 90 days. So let's talk about the specific strategies and the tactics. Now, due to the timing of the webinar, we only have an hour. There's a lot to go over. So we do have available an additional tactics and strategies that you can get. But I want to talk about first is the search volume. So if you look at your search volume for particular keywords, you want to understand, and working with your digital e-commerce company or the brand, whoever handles your digital marketing, you want to ask about the volume, because volume does make a difference and it does vary. So if you have an independent website, for example, you can get that volume through your search console. You can also go through what's called the Google Keyword Planner, and there's Google Trends. So what's an example of how the volume is looking? So I want to take ahead a slide real quick, and we look at the Google Trend for Orlando. Because the announcements of the theme parks opening, you can see there's currently a trend where it dropped off when everything hit, but now you can see it's going up a little bit. And so when I look at Chicago hotels, they still haven't hit that stride yet. So you can go into Google Trends, you can literally type in any keyword that you want, and you can see what is trending for your destination. And then you can decide what type of keywords that you want to focus on. So once you have that information, you want to kind of go back to your console or go to Google and type in Orlando Hotel or Orlando Hotel near Disney or whatever keyword you want to rank for, and see how are you ranking for that? Where are you ranking near? And then you want to look at your keyword research volume in terms of the total volume. You want to look at your page pass for your landing page, and then your booking channels to see what has increased, what has decreased. So if you're seeing it, your OTAs are increasing and your brand.com is decreasing, why is that? You'll have to look in that in more detail. And then how to measure that information. There's various measurement tools that you can use. So if we jump down to phone calls, for example, if somebody is looking at the phone calls, are they lookers or are they bookers? So these are things that you want to kind of consider and really think about. So things that you can do today. So we talked about the 90-day action plan that you can do. And again, there's multiple action plans that I put together. So this is really turnkey on these action plans for you. You just have to tweak it out to your specific destination. But I want to also talk about things that we can do today besides 90 days. So some things that you can do today is create a social selling strategy. There are some previous webinars I think that HSMAI did that I thought were really good that talked about LinkedIn in more detail, but I think that it's something really important because people today are not, meeting people in person. So the best way you can do that is have a social strategy. So you want to optimize your LinkedIn profile, not optimize your LinkedIn profile for a job, but optimize your LinkedIn profile for your customer. Then you want to look at joining LinkedIn groups and look at, what are the groups that are out there that you can join. And then there's social listening alerts that you can set up. And then you want to pay attention to the comments and build your credibility by sharing really important content. So that's something that, when you get off the call today, reach out to your top 10 key accounts and ask them how they're doing. You don't have to sell them. If your hotel is closed, still reach out to them because you're building that consistent communication to them, and you want to be there for them instead of your competitor all over that. So another thing that you can do today, and this is really great. This is all free by AHLA. They put this together. If you're going to be going after the healthcare industry and first responders or displaced employees, they have a complete program for you. So if you go to these PDFs, you can download them. They'll tell you exactly, what to do, kind of like the roadmap that we're doing, except this is specific to the toolkit of going after healthcare and first responders. And they have the framework for how you can set that up as well. So that's something that I think that would be really beneficial for everybody if you're going to go after that market segment. So I want to talk about auditing your digital channels. So this is something that's really important to do. Out of all the slides that we're talking about today, I think the next following auditing slides are really important because some of the hotels have closed or you're running 6% or 10%. You've got to do an audit to see where are we at today so we know how to get there tomorrow. So the reason why we want to audit these channels is multitask. You want to do it because you want to improve your organic search because people are searching a little bit differently today. You want to increase your engagement, and most importantly, you want to increase your revenue. And how are you going to do that? So what worked for you back in January or December of last year pre-coronavirus may not work today because the way that people are shopping and the way they're searching. So let's talk about those 6 channels. There's 6 buckets I think that you need to look at, and we're going to go into detail on each of these, and I'm going to have specific examples for you. So everything from website analytics to group and transient business, local search, and again with the revenue management, again I don't want to get into dollars with revenue management and rates, but doing some checklists with your HOD, doing some OTA research, though in terms of content. Those are things that are important. So let's kind of jump into that in specifics. Website analytics. This is one of the biggest areas you need to do when you're doing your audit. I know we have some branded hotels on here and non-branded hotels. Most hotels will give you some sort of analytics to look at. And so what the first thing you need to do is look at your website content. What is the content that's currently on your website? The most important thing you can do on the website content is to improve your SEO results and conversions. So you want to look at your audience engagement, you want to look at your conversion rate if you have that data, and then you want to analyze that and drop a roadmap. So if it were me today, what I would do is I would look at my content and I would make sure that I have content regarding what's happening and what I'm doing with the new protocols for my guest rooms. And if I can do that through visual, being videos or images, I'll do that. If I'm a branded hotel and I'm more limited on the type of images I can upload those, I would do those via email. I would do that on LinkedIn, and I would do that on the social networks as well. So let's talk about how to do an audit, right? So the first thing you want to do if you have Google Analytics, you want to go into your Google Analytics and then go under brand and then find your hotel, go to behavior, your site content, and then there's 2 areas you want to look at, all pages and landing pages. And for those of you that don't know the difference, all pages is really all the pages on your website, and that's how people interact on your website. So they may come into your home page and they may go to a couple of your sub pages. That's going to be listed under all pages. Your landing pages are primarily what's going to be showing up in the search engine results. So you're going to have different content that you want for both of those. And then in the highlight in the red area, you want to look at the page views. You want to look at the unique content that people are having. You want to look at what are the bounce rate, which is really important, which means someone comes to the website and they bounce right off. So you want to take a look at that content and see what's working. If you're a branded hotel and you don't have the kind of analytics that this has, some of the brands do give you some data on how often a page is visited. For those brands that don't, you can still audit your pages by looking at it and seeing what content makes sense to you. Where are you ranking in the search engines for that content? And does that content address today's traveler? And again, if you have any questions on any of these things that we're going over, please put them in the question box. So once you get your content audit completed, you want to revamp your keywords because today it's very different how people are searching. Most people have some type of voice search enabled functionality either on their phones or in their homes or in their offices. So the way people are searching today for voice search, as an example, is they'll be asking very specific questions. So instead of saying Orlando Hotel like they would go to a desktop, they say, what is the hotel closest to Disney World? And that becomes a keyword, and that becomes content on your website. So you might consider developing a frequently asked questions page on your website and have questions like that. And then there's get with your SEO company to talk about how to really optimize those for the search engines. But people are looking at intent. And so Google today now looks at things very differently than they did 5-10 years ago. And they're using artificial intelligence. They're using something that's called RankBrain, and they're looking at all this intent. So there's 4 basic areas, 4 basic type keywords that you need to have, and they're all going to fall under the category of informational, navigational, transactional, and the natural language, which would be the voice search. So focus on this to build out your new content on your website. This is really, really important because this is how people are going to find you. And then you want to take these keywords that you're using and you want to use those in your posts on your social sites, because Google crawls your social sites. So if they're crawling your social site and they see similar keywords that you have on your website, Google's going to put 2 and 2 together, and they may rank you higher than they're going to rank one of your competitors. So let's talk about local search. So what is local search? Local search is those local directories that you probably may or may not have heard of, white pages, super pages, and so on. And so what you need to do is you need to audit your local search. Now there's literally about 50 to 60 local search directories are out there. This impacts your mobile listings and your mobile rankings. And so what this kind of slide shows is all these different directories, but they all feed each other. So one directory might pull category listings, and another feed might pull the hours or the phone number for the hotel. What's important to do is to make sure that you have complete consistency. So an example is we just did an audit for a hotel, and it was on their Facebook page, and the category on their Facebook page listing was business center. That's not what it should be. It should be hotel, resort, wedding venue, and that type of thing. Also, when we do an audit and we look at some local listings on like super pages and that, we'll see that the category listing might be business center, or it might be e-commerce. We see that a lot. I don't know why, but we see a lot of hotels saying e-commerce. Maybe it's because of reservations. But you've got to get all those corrected, because when someone does a local search and someone's looking for what's called the Google panel, which is on the right-hand side when someone Googles your brand name, Google's looking to this for relevancy. So this is like really important to do. It's hard to look at all 50, it really is. Now, some of you on the line might say, well, but I'm buying Yext and I use Yext, and that's, they say they update 60 or 70 directories, which is true. Yext does that, but there are other directories that Yext does not do. So there's probably 5 major feed directories that feed everybody, and those you really need to look at how your listings are listed and if you have duplicate listings as well, because that can impact things too. So local search audit, really important to do. Part of the local search audit is the Google My Business. So for those of you who have access to Google My Business, what you want to do is you want to log into your Google My Business page and make sure that your completeness is at 100%. And the reason why it's important to be at 100% on your completeness is because that's showing Google that you've really completed everything. There are 2 areas that I want everyone to really focus on your Google My Business as a priority. One is images and the other is attributes. Google several months ago just updated their attributes. So you want to make sure that your attributes are completed. So what is an attribute? An example of an attribute that Google has is your ADA policies. So where before they didn't have any information about ADA, and now they do. So you want to make sure that you have all the check marks. So if someone is Googling an ADA hotel, again, you're more likely to pop up in Google's eyes. And then on the images area, this is really important. So you need to make sure that if your hotel has renovated, that you have your hotel images uploaded. Now, customers can upload images as well. And we've seen this on a number of occasions with both Hyatt Hotels and Marriott, in which a consumer will upload another brand even though they stayed at one. So an example, we've seen where people who have stayed at a Hyatt Place have uploaded a Hyatt House images, or they stayed at a Courtyard and the consumer uploaded a Residence Inn image. And so now these images are residing on your Google My Business page. A guest goes there, they're looking at the images, they see there's a picture of a suite or refrigerator. Your hotel doesn't have that. They get to the hotel, they get disappointed. So what you need to do, and Google does not make this easy, just so you all know, if you want to upload your own images, Google makes it super simple. You can go in, delete, upload, and you're done. On the customer facing side, you've got to send a request to Google, and that usually takes several weeks for them to do. But it's really important that you look at those two specific areas. And then if you have a food and beverage facility as well on property, you can upload your menus. Make sure, I've seen hotels where the business hours are not 24, so just kind of make sure you have all those. And again, same thing on the business area of the category listings. You want to make sure your category listings is correct. So next is you want to do a social media audit. And so this is something I think that you can work in conjunction with your social media company if you have one, or you can do it on your own, or if you have a social media company, you just do it on your own to do your own auditing purposes. And so one of the most important things that I need to share with everybody is don't stop posting. If your hotel is closed, or if it's due to open, or you cut your budget because you couldn't afford your social media agency, at least post once a week, because a hotel that goes dormant on posting can have so much impact not only with the consumer, because now you're going to have outdated posts, but to the search engines as well. They can read everything, and if they see that you have outdated posts, you are more likely not to get ranked than those competitors who do have updated posts, even if you're only posting once a week because you're closed. So you might be saying, well, I don't know what to post, Gordon, because it's once a week. I mean, what do I post? Because the destination's closed and everything's closed. Well, you can talk about what you're doing with your crisis management. You can talk about changes to your business policies. You can even post uplifting quotes or personal messages. It's staying connected to all your guests through social media that is like really important to do. So I think that's something that you might want to consider. So when you're doing an audit, you need to evaluate and analyze your social media channels. This means all your social media channels. And I think, there's a lot of people that think, well, I need to be on everything. I need to be on Instagram. I need to be on Twitter. I need to be on LinkedIn. I need to be on Facebook. I don't agree with that. I think you need to look at who your audience is and define what works and what doesn't. I see a lot of hotels on Twitter and they're posting on Twitter. And the problem is there's no really Twitter activity. So why are you paying an agency to post on Twitter, if that's the case? Additionally, we see a lot of hotels post the same message on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter and LinkedIn. They're different audiences slightly. You can have the same messages, but you need to write them differently. And the consumer's going to see that. So this is really something, part of that audit process that I mentioned, that you really need to, kind of think about. So what's involved with audit? So I know this might look overwhelming, but this information, what you want to do is pull from your analytics from social media, or get it from your social media company. Do not just give this to the social media company and say, fill this out for me. You want to do it yourself because you need to be educated. But having this data is different than knowing what to do with the data. So this is just an example of Facebook. I have Pinterest because I figured some hotels might be on Pinterest. We have LinkedIn, we have Twitter, we have Instagram. So I have all this on Excel spreadsheet, for you to download, but you need to complete all this information. And then once you have this information, then you can sit down with your social media people or yourself and say, okay, what makes sense to me? Because if I have Twitter as an example, I'm not picking on Twitter, but if I have Twitter and my year-over-year change is 0, and I've been posting every week for the last year, is this a channel that's right for you? Or could you put more energy into Instagram? I would rather recommend that I see a hotel do stories and posts on Instagram than do posts on Twitter if they're not getting anything out of Twitter. So something to think about. Take your resources, utilize them wisely. And stories are really, really important to use on with the engagement level with the Instagram. Remember I kind of talked about earlier about letting the guests know. Well, if you have a pretty good sizable audience, you can do a Facebook Live, or you can do an Instagram Live and talk about your cleaning protocols. Show them, what you're doing. So, if you're, a hotel that's just ready to open up, and you just released all your new protocols. For example, you're handing out masks, to guests, and obviously you shouldn't use your hand. You're using thongs to do that. You show the front desk person doing that. Those kind of things live are so important. Or it might be your hand sanitizers with an actual guest or employee utilizing that. Those are great things to do live, and have your housekeeper or your general manager or director of sales do that live event. And then save that live event, download it to an MP4, and then upload it later on for those people who missed it. So those are the kind of things that you can go out there and post that I think are really important. And again, thinking out of the box that way. And then we need to look at, paid ads. So paid ads, I know some of the hotels are doing it and some aren't, and you have some brands that are doing it. So if you're not doing paid ads, now is the time to audit your paid ads. And so you need to look at, from a Facebook perspective and from a Google perspective, what's working for you. So obviously I know most of everyone probably stopped their ads, which I agree with. But now you need to think about, what do we need to do with our budget? Where do we need to put it? So before, where you may have had a budget and you were going global, maybe you need to only do ads focused to your feeder markets. Or maybe you need to focus only more on Facebook, because the cost of Facebook ads are a lot cheaper than Google ads. And then once you have your ads, or once you have your data, you want to look at, what are the page paths and what does that tell you? So example, we were auditing a property and they were doing their own PPC for Google. And when we audited, they were showing high click-through rates for a keyword, which was really great from the surface level. But when we looked at it more in detail and we looked at the page path, there was a 98% bounce rate on those ads, meaning someone clicked on the ad and then they clicked off of it immediately. So you really need to take a second to look at, does this ad, or does this, copy in the ad, or does this keyword make sense to me? And this is going back both to Facebook and to Google Ads. And then phone calls. We're getting a lot of hotels that are telling me, we're just getting lookers right now, we're not getting any bookers. So if that's the case, and you should be talking to your front desk about that, why not get with revenue management and do some type of training to the front desk, similar to the, the signature training that I think most people should be familiar with, on the call. I'm helping with those conversion to make that guest feel comfortable about coming to the hotel, to turn them from a looker into a booker. And then the campaign types. You're getting ready to reopen your hotel. You've been closed for 3 months. Pull your guest database and send an email out to the guest database that you can do. And then also run ad campaigns based on a similar audience to that guest database. So for example, with Google and Facebook, you can take your database of email addresses, you can upload it to both Google and Facebook and say, I want a similar audience. So how great would that be to pull your database and say, I want a similar audience to this email address? And the way that works is what Google and Facebook does. They see if they have that email database into their system, and they look at the similar characteristics. It gets a little bit complicated, but basically they're going to come back and tell you, yes, this email address is characteristics of behavior of this person is similar to yours, so we're going to show our ad to that person. Or maybe you're looking at more staycation. So, if you have a hotel, for example, like we have a hotel that has a really nice pool, and they're talking about doing a pool package. That's a staycation. People want to get out right now. They've been stuck in their homes too long. They may not want to get on a plane and travel, but they do want to get in their car and drive someplace or stay within the city. So if there's something unique about your property, that's something that you can do a pay-per-click campaign on. And one area that I would really recommend that you focus on is mobile only. Mobile only campaigns is really important to focus on, because that's in your local market. The hotel near me are related terms. And so someone might be your competitor and they may be there for 3 days and they may not be happy with the protocols they have in place. What are they going to do? They're going to get on their phone. They're going to look for a hotel, or they're going to say hotel near me. And you want to be front and center. And you want to avoid the OTAs from taking your ads, because if you're a hotel that's your $200-300 at a rate, and the OTAs is buying your name, and for $2 you can buy your name, well, you're paying 20-30% commission, whatever it might be, to the OTAs. If your average length of stay at 2 nights at $200 a night, that's $400 times 20%. It's $40 in commission versus a couple dollars if you own that own URL yourself and you brought them to direct bookings. So those are the kind of things that you can do, and I would recommend that. So let's talk about group and transient business, because that's everyone on the call is looking, how do we do that? So with group business, you need to, again, optimize your cancellation policy, just like you do with your transient. You want to encourage flexible rescheduling, and that's hard to do, I know, with large groups, but that's what's going to get you those conversions. You want to maintain your ADR. Look at your historical data. Understand where your groups are. So if you have a CRM system where you have that data, definitely take that data and detail it out and send an educational email out, not an offer, but an educational email out about the destination, what you're doing, how you're going to make the guests feel safe, and then you can send an offer. Again, build that confidence with them. Audit. Again, part of your audit, you want to audit your convention planner, your CVent, hotel planner, all these different venues that are out there. And when I say audit, make sure images are current. Make sure that the URL to that particular event menu, let's say CVent, it doesn't go to your homepage. It should go to your group page. And make sure the content reflects today's traveler. So on CVent or Convention Planet, you're going to change it up completely. And you want to say something about what protocols that you have in place for groups, and specifically targeting for groups. So revenue management strategies. And again, I don't want to get into rates or anything like that, but do an HOD audit. And again, I have lots of revenue management strategies you can do. You can download those. But what's important to remember here is that people forget about the HOD. You need to be doing an HOD audit at least once a year. And so you want to evaluate the local attractions, the indexes, and make sure that they're current and are they relevant. That's going to be one of your biggest areas of wins. Same thing with your images. How vivid are they? Or you might want to upload images of some of your new protocols. Again, it might be, the hand sanitizer machine. It might be, a room attendant with, cleaning in an extra special way. Those are the kind of things you want to look at with your audit when you're doing the HOD audit. And then you want to update any modifiers or additional amenities, revised cancellation dates. That's another really important one. If you currently have a flexible, a lot of the hotels I know went to the OTAs and they put no cancellation, but did you remember to go and do it to your HOD audit? So those are the kind of things that you want to really keep in mind on and have top mind awareness. So this was kind of interesting. This was a study that was done. They took it by market segment and they kind of showed on the HOD what was most important. And so once you pull your HOD, what I would recommend is that you take a look at this. Everyone's going to get a copy of the presentation, obviously, and kind of go through this as your major check marks. I mean, there are areas on the HOD that can be updated. It has to do with the fire safety and all that. You may have updated. That's good to update, but it's not one of the priorities to update. So, these particular areas is your photos, obviously your services, your amenities, policy information. These are like areas that you want to focus on and really make sure that you update completely. And this is all, again, based on the different destinations. And then you want to consider about revamping your budget, because we've just come out of this and now our budgets are all messed up. Many hotels aren't going to make their rooms budget. So, ownership is going to come to you and go, you need to cut. And what do you cut? But how do you cut it so you're not, losing business? Because you still have to do SEO. You still have to do social. You still have to have a specific strategy, against that. So now's the time to rethink about how you're going to do things. And so you need to consider your current digital effort if you're doing it in-house or if you're outsourcing it, for your website, for social media, email, the paid ads, is the current agency you're working with, are they willing to be flexible, with you? Are they willing to say, you know what, we can do this for you? Did they put you on hold, or, can they cut a little bit of what they're doing until the end of the year or for the next 6 months, just to help you? That's the kind of partner I think that you need to have and to look for. And maybe now is the time to reshop, your social media company or your email marketing company, or your people are doing your SEO, or if they're doing it in-house, how effective is it, with being it done in-house? So these are the kind of things that you need to kind of think about as you're going through, all this information. So I know I had a lot of information. I went through it a little bit quickly, but I know we're limited on time. I wanted to leave, a lot of time for Q&A because I'm sure a lot of you might have some specific Q&A. I do want to share that couple things. So HSMAI is going to do another webinar similar to this. We have a 35-page roadmap template. So this is going to be completely different than what you saw today, but it's really a template. So when your bosses say, what are you doing to get new business for the next 90 days? This is a roadmap with action plans and action steps that you can put together. It's not, turnkey by any means, but it's going to give you the roadmap that you need to help fill in the blanks, so you're not starting out with a blank stare saying, where do I start? This is your canvas, and this is what you can do to paint it. I also included the social media audit form that you're going to be able to download as well. Again, that's an Excel spreadsheet that has all the major social media channels. And then there's going to be a 30-point recommended action step action plan. So there's 30 questions that you can tie into to help you with your roadmap template to develop. So no cost, it's all free. And if you have any specific questions, just let us know. We're here to help each other and help you get through all this. So with that in mind, I want to kind of move it into Q&A, and I'll turn it over to Sheila.
Thank you, Gordon. So one of the first questions that we have is, does social selling really work?
Yes. So yes, it does, because 43% of the sales opportunities are increased with social media when you're doing social selling. And social selling is not just simply updating your LinkedIn profile and calling it a day. Today, consumers, meeting planners, are looking at 2 to 3 pieces of information to look at before they make a buying decision, before they even call you. So how do you engage with somebody? So if there's somebody that I want to contact with Burger King that I don't know, that's a meeting planner, how do I reach out to them? Well, today, if I call them on the phone, I'm not going to reach them, right? And even if they didn't have the COVID, it's going to be hard to reach them because operators don't answer phones anymore, or everything goes to voicemail and people don't pick up their voicemails anymore. So what do? What you do is you connect with them. And you don't connect with them with selling. You connect with them by building a relationship. If you do social selling, I will assure you that your sales to close ratios will increase by at least 50%. And so I used an example. I did a webinar, a workshop actually on social selling. And I talked about Burger King as the example. And here I'm a digital agency, and I reached out to this meeting planner with Burger King, and he connected with me. But it was because I just didn't go to LinkedIn and say, connect with me, and that was it. I went to him on LinkedIn. I said, oh, I noticed that you're in these groups, because we shared similar groups. So I looked at his profile, and I saw we had similar interests, and I reflected that in my initial message to him. And I believe that's why he connected with me. And that was because he saw that it was a personalized message. We're both members of the same group, and he connected with me. In addition, if you're a branded hotel, and we all know sometimes the national sales managers or the brands don't want us connecting, calling the RFP meeting planners, but we all know that we want them to know about our hotel. You can do that via LinkedIn, because that's your personal profile. So if Burger King is a transient account example, and it's handled by one of the big brands, and you're not allowed to contact him because the national sales manager is, you can simply, from your LinkedIn, connect with him, introduce yourself, and establish a relationship that way. Something that's really effective. So I would definitely recommend doing it. If you're going to be successful in social selling, it needs to be done an hour a day. So whether it's in the morning or in the afternoon or whenever you decide to do it, it's going on, it's researching, set a target of 10 new connections, and you will see your appointment setting, either on the phone or eventually in person, is going to increase. But more importantly, you'll see your goals and your quotas increase.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. Another question says, I work for a brand. How do I do a website contact audit since I don't have analytics?
Right. So some of the brands, for example, I know that Hyatt and Marriott will tell you not the specifics, but they'll say this is one of your most popular pages. So you can isolate it specifically that way. And the next step on that is to go in and look at your title tag and what keywords you are trying to rank for, and putting that into Google, and then seeing what your search result is. If you're not ranking, there's a lot of variables. It may not only be content, it may not be the right keyword, but does that content on the site make sense to you? And is it in the interest of the funnel of the search intent for that consumer in terms of where they are in that particular booking phase? So if you have upgraded bedding or upgraded linens in the rooms, or plush, towels, shower heads that are unique in any way, those things make a difference. Make sure you call that out and highlight that. If you're a TripAdvisor Service of Excellence, or you receive the TripAdvisor or AAA Housekeeping Award, add all that content so you can read your content. If you have those and that content's not on there, you want to make sure you add it.
Fantastic. And then another question is, you mentioned keywords. Can you please explain keyword intent in more detail?
Sure. So Google has, as I mentioned earlier, RankBrain and artificial intelligence. And so what Google does is they're looking, what is the intent of your keyword that you're typing into Google? So that's why today, you can't do ranking reports. They don't work because everybody is different. They're either searching on their mobile device, which has a separate index than Google, than a desktop, and what they're looking for. So for example, if I'm searching for, a wedding photographer, and then my next search is wedding florist, and then my next search is wedding venues, and then obviously these are all with the word destination, and then hotel Orlando. Google is going to know that my intent was to find something to do with the wedding. So rather than Google showing the result of my homepage, which has Orlando Hotel, it's going to show me the page that has to do with weddings at my hotel. The same thing with what a meeting planner might go through. So you really have to do your research to understand what keywords and possibly that people are searching. And another example would be Java, because I do digital marketing. I might do JavaScript, language, or JavaScript coding. Sheila might be, on the other hand, might be typing in Java, coffee beans. So the next research result that she may get will probably be Starbucks. Mine won't be.
I do love my Starbucks.
Yeah.
Next question is, what social media channels do you recommend?
Again, it's based on your audience. Facebook for sure, absolutely 100%. Don't let anybody tell you, we hear a lot from some of our clients, well, my kids don't use Facebook, so let's put everything into Instagram. Well, that's not the case, because there's research upon research shows that Facebook is hitting all market segments, but they also is a customer service channel, and Google is crawling it a lot easier than they do Instagram. If I were to pick my top 3 based on my hotel, based on my destination, so I'll break it down and make it easier for everybody. If I was a resort, I put a large resort or a casino, I would probably do all 4 channels. I do Instagram, I do Twitter, I do Facebook, and I would do missed one of them.
LinkedIn?
My mind just went blank. Thank you. If I was a hotel going after corporate business, I would do LinkedIn, and I would do Facebook, and I would do Instagram. If I was to do a limited service property, I would probably do LinkedIn, I would do Facebook, and I would do somewhat Instagram, not as much because I'm a corporate hotel, but people still look at Instagram, and there is opportunity with the stories that you can use. So I haven't mentioned Pinterest. Why have I not mentioned Pinterest? Because Pinterest consistently, and we work with event companies and we work with hotels and resorts, we consistently see that Pinterest is more for that consumer interfacing of cooking and you know, maybe if you're a restaurant and you have a celebrity chef, that would be good, but we just don't see it being, you know, viable at all. I mean, we get a lot of, like one of our event management companies has Pinterest. They don't get a lot of engagement on it, and most of the people are looking at it are for like wedding ideas. So the core is, you know, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Twitter if you're a major resort. Otherwise, I would not recommend Twitter for a property. Just to me, it just doesn't make sense. But look at your analytics, look at who your audience is, and then make that decision. Posting on all those channels, I want to stress, needs to be at least 2 to 3 days a week. And you have to engage with them. So if someone comments on something, you need to respond to that comment, whether it's a like, if they liked you, or if they made a written content. And most importantly, on all these channels, videos, videos, videos. I see so many of the hotels posting images, 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 images. You need to have video content on those sites because that's what's going to get you the highest level of engagement across all of our clients. We consistently see videos as being a high engagement. And something that you can do simply on videos for like LinkedIn is if you have a sales team, introduce your staff to your LinkedIn, your LinkedIn profile connections. So, hi, my name is Gordon. I handle this market segment and blah, blah, blah. Just a 1 or 2 minute video. Doesn't have to be perfect. Or, hi, I'm Nancy. I'm the front desk person at this hotel. And my favorite restaurant, in Orlando is, or my favorite attraction is. Another video you can do is doing if you have a restaurant, even if it's a Hyatt Place, everyone has some type of signature drinks. Make that signature drink. But I will share with you, if you decide to do that, make sure that, like at a Hyatt Place, for example, make sure you do that drink like in the very early morning when no one's in the lobby, because Hyatt Places have those lobby areas. And so we have a hotel that did this, but they did the video like at 4 o'clock in the afternoon when the lobby was like really busy and you really couldn't hear the person. So you want to do it at a time when it's like dead quiet, and you show how to do that, and you go slow and make sure it's an energetic person and fun. Another thing you can do is if you have an energetic front desk person or housekeeping, have them give a tour of one of your guest rooms, or of this is the cleaning protocols that we have in place. Those are really like important things to look at doing when you're building up your social media.
Awesome. Another question that just came in, it says, Google has been mentioned often. Are there any other sites, i.e. Yahoo or DuckDuckGo, that you suggest for gathering information?
Well, Google captures about 78% of the market segment. So I go where whoever's capturing the biggest market segments. Not much you can do with DuckDuckGo. You can optimize your Bing listing. So definitely I would take a look at, your Bing local listing. We have a hotel recently that's not, that told us they was a potential customer, they weren't ranking well and they couldn't understand why. And I did like an analysis from them. And part of the problem that they have is they just built, with a vendor, a website. And I looked at all their links to Bing and Yahoo and Yelp, and all those links were going to the brand website and not to their new independent website. So these are kind of things that you have to make a decision on as, a hotelier if you have an independent site, because there's a lot of juice for Yelp. There's a lot of juice for, Google Local, Bing Local, the CVB website, the state tourism website. And if that's all going to the brand website, guess who's going to get that link juice? The brand website, not your independent site. And that's going to make you harder to rank. But there are complete sets of algorithms that are a little bit different than Google has than Facebook. Than Bing. Facebook has its own algorithms. Instagram has its own algorithms. So for me, I would focus on specifically the Google to look at. If you're not already following the Google blog, the Webmaster blog, I would follow them because you'll understand, they release like what kind of updates to do and that kind of thing. So those things are really important.
Awesome. And then someone asked, does Facebook advertising really work?
Yeah, it really does, because when I'm running an ad on Google, for example, I'm limited on what I can do. Yes, I mentioned earlier we can do lookalike audiences, but the ads I run are specific. I could go to certain websites and say I only want to advertise on these websites. But with Facebook, your cost is a lot cheaper. So your cost for Facebook might be 30 cents versus $2 or more for Google. In addition, I can get very specific on the market segments that I want to reach. So I can say, I want to know anybody who is getting married, who changed their status from single to engaged within a 200-mile radius of my hotel. I want my ad to pop up in front of that person. And then I could do a rotating video ad about, the weddings that we're going to have. Or if you're a casino, for example, and you're getting ready to open up your casino, I can say, I want a 200 or 300-mile radius. Anybody who is tagged that they like my casino, anybody who tagged that they like my competitor, casinos, I want my ad to pop up. So if you're a casino A and there's casino B who's a competitor, you can go to Facebook and buy that and let that pop up. And then you can break it down by demographics. So you can say, I only want my ad to show up to anybody who's making, because it's gambling, over $100,000. Not that people who make less than $100,000 gamble, but people who make over 100,000 may gamble more. I don't know. But you can say that very specifically. And you can further delineate it to, I only want people who are married and who have no kids. I wanted, to only reach males and not females. This is how specific you can get with Facebook, and that's why it works. I would definitely test. Inexpensive to test. For $600, you can get a great test out of on a Facebook. If you were to try $600 in Google, it wouldn't work. If you were to test Google Ads, at least $1,500 to $2,000 per month. Facebook, you can get away with $600.
And then here's our very last question. Thank you for all that information. The very last question is, what is the one thing that I can do to get me immediate business?
I would say the one thing that you can do today is follow up on just pick one of the things that we talked about today, and that will get you immediate business. To me, if it were myself, I would definitely go to LinkedIn. I start my social selling effort. I look at my top 10 accounts. I would look at my top 10 accounts that I lost. I would reach out to them and just say, hey, how are you doing? Aren't you glad that everything is starting to open up and that we're going to be moving forward, and start the conversation that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gordon.
Okay.
And then if we go to the next slide, please.
Yeah, and I do want to share that on the 35-page roadmap that you're going to download, look at your emails, because Sheila's going to be sending out an email. We're going to do another webinar on that roadmap. So it's going to be even more kind of go over to walk you through how to do that. And then we're also going to allow people to, if they want to upload prior to the webinar, some of your 90-day action plans. We'll kind of cross out the name of the hotel. We'll make it really live interactive if you want, and we'll give you feedback on that, but we'll hide any pertinent information regarding your hotel or destination.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much. All right. And then for all that joined us today, we hope you gained some helpful takeaways to create your own roadmap to recovery. Remember, you'll also receive a link to today's recording as well as information on the roadmap template that Gordon mentioned. Please also consider taking advantage of one of the 3 HSMAI certifications listed on this slide, and which is the Certified Hospitality Business Acumen, Certified Hospitality Digital Marketer, and Certified Revenue Management Executive. Nearly 30 years ago, HSMAI introduced certifications for hotel sales professionals. Today, training and credentialing is offered in several disciplines, including revenue management, business acumen, and digital marketing. You can find more information at hsmai.org/certification. Also, for the next slide, Gordon, please. Mark your calendars for Tuesday, June 23rd at 12 noon for our next webinar, which will be managing change and staying resilient while planning for recovery. Keep an eye out for our upcoming e-blast or post on LinkedIn and Facebook for more information. And lastly, on behalf of Ellen Wilson, Managing Director, our entire advisory board, and my sleeping 3 dogs here that have been snoring through the questions and answers, which I apologize for, have a wonderful rest of your day. And this now ends our webinar.
Hello?